Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be discussing the results just released for Boohoo Group, the fast fashion retailer that's been in the news a lot this year. Obviously I've done a lot of videos on Boohoo before, and I have been pretty bearish before on the prospects of the company due to the modern slavery allegations earlier in the year. And these results were good, better than I would have expected based on those allegations, but good. Now, it'll be interesting to see where the company goes from here. Obviously, you can see here that revenue has increased a lot, 45%. Gross profit, all really good numbers here. Now, there are a few little things that I just want to point out from this results. You can see that throughout this document, if you read it yourself, they're relatively easy to find. There is no mention of the brand breakdown, whereas in the previous results from 2019, the half-year results, you do get a breakdown of the brands. Now, that's of interest to me because there's been acquisitions this year, Oasis, Warehouse. A few of these brands were tied up specifically in the Leicester Mon-Savory scandal. So I'd just be interested to know how those revenues have changed, whether they've increased significantly or not. It's just interesting to me that that's not in there anywhere. Now, you've also got another element, which I think if you look at the revenue growth by geographical market, in 2020, the growth in the US was strong, but elsewhere, it either declined or was relatively flat. So in the UK, it grew 2%. Europe, though, fell from 71 to 41. And again, rest of the world fell from last year. Now, obviously, that's not a huge thing that's going to happen, but I think this company is priced so aggressively. And that means that there's a lot of expectation on it, which is probably why, despite a small pop this morning, the stock then started to decline. If you see here, there was a small early pop, and then the stock started to decline. So we'll see what happens with that. Also, I think simultaneously to the results, Shadowfall, the UK-based short fund, kind of re-announced that they were short Boohoo. Obviously, they've been short since the modern slavery allegations. But they re-announced and stated some rather important points that I think are worth looking at. Several questions that we believe should be put to Boohoo's management. What percentage of this was driven from unintentionally benefiting from Leicester factory workers? Now, obviously Shadowfall here is being a little bit over the top because they want the price to fall. That's why they intentionally timed this with the results, with the market open. Obviously, the Levitt inquiry cleared, in quotation marks, Boohoo of this, but it is a fair question. A review operated not by someone who the company has paid and limited in scope and really stonewalled in places is not going to necessarily come up with the same findings. The Levitt inquiry was limited and very quick, 80 days, and was met with some resistance towards the end. Now, a governmental inquiry isn't going to react well to that. They get around the stonewalling. They will take their time. They will look into everything. They won't ignore facts like how the chairman is linked to some of the Leicester factories, which Levitt did. So yeah, I think there's still a lot of possible red flags here. I mean, can you confirm whether members of the Kamani family have either direct or indirect economic interest in any supply to Boohoo? Is there only one compliance auditor for the Leicester supply region? Are they still on furlough? And how many are they if they have increased? All questions that are pretty fair to ask. I agree the way they've done it and the timing is unnecessarily dramatic, but they have already asked most of these questions, I believe, in their previous research on their website. Can you confirm if you had any correspondence from the National Crime Agency? Will Carol Kane reappear in front of the EAC? This is obviously all about the fact that Carol Kane, when she was co-CEO, in front of the EAC, was completely wrong about the government. The audit processes at Boohoo, I mean, that's a pretty, bad thing to show. In your own independent review, that's what came up, that she was completely wrong on their internal audit and compliance practices while she was testifying, that she was talking about practices that were from years ago. That's pretty concerning. And then you've got talk about the class action in the US to false and deceptive advertising. It's interesting to see Shadowfall highlighting all these points. They're not things that are like hidden. Anyone who read the review can understand most of this. But yeah, I think there were other problems. In preparation for the results this morning, I read a lot of articles on Boohoo and on the stock and on what people were thinking about it. And there was a lot from an Evening Standard article. There was discussion from a broker, Liberum, that said things like the risk of government intervention is quite high and real, and the behaviour of the company could be potentially classified as misleading and negligent if a government inquiry takes place. I mean, there's also been talk from MPs that they want Kamani and the CEO to step down, John Little. They've been quite active on this subject. Liberum even questioned whether the company should set aside funds for future fines from the government. And one of the steps suggested in that review, and that they've said they're doing, is to show their dedication to the supply chain. And Boohoo are opening a UK factory in Leicester, 250 people, employees for it. Now that's a big departure from their current business model. They've said that won't impact their profit margins at all. Now personally, obviously they should know the fast fashion industry a lot better than I do, but I just don't see how that's possible. How can having more PPE, more assets not removed from their profit margin? They will have to spend more money and they'll have to build it, pay a fair wage, and keep an eye on the conditions and things like that. Like, this can't be a standard factory. If they're doing it, it has to be done properly, almost over the top, to remove any really possible accusations. Liberum also highlighted the lack of seriousness of which Kamani treated Levitt's inquiry, apparently fielding most of her questions over breakfast in a hotel while other people were dipping in and out, having conversations with him, really making a farce of the whole thing. And I think that's just an example of how he runs the business, how he operates as a person. He's very focused on seeing it as his business. Obviously, he's the largest shareholder. Seeing it as his business, how it's going to be run for him, and not really caring about these kind of elements because they don't bother him. But they do bother other shareholders, and they should. He didn't even remember the name of their own internal auditor, almost as if that person didn't exist. It's quite a concerning omission there, that he couldn't remember the auditor for the firm, internal. So yeah, I think these results are good. Better than I was expecting them to be, as I said. But there are some headwinds facing Boohoo. Now, obviously, there are a lot of people who love this stock. They think it's going to keep going up and up and up. Price targets of 600 I've seen. I think that's possible, but also I think there's a lot of things that could go wrong here. While, the growth is probably going to continue, you don't know how this changes are going to affect the revenue and the profit margin for Boohoo. And also, really want to see if the government are going to start an inquiry of their own. If they're going to leave it alone, I think this stock will probably soar. But if MPs get more and more vocal, if they want to see these changes, and to be honest, good results were probably the worst thing you needed in that regard. The results were bad, the MPs might have backed off, but now good results. One of the points of contention was the 150 million in bonuses the board paid to themselves a few weeks before they launched the independent review. So I think this one's difficult. There are people that love this stock that are going to stay invested, that are going to watch it go up and up and up, or want to watch it go up and up and up. I think it's a little more complicated than that. I think this is probably going to be a long-term profitable company, a profitable investment, but short-term it could be very volatile. You've seen today that despite these stellar results so far, there hasn't been a huge amount of increase. The stock's trading lower than the previous close. And I think that just comes down to huge expectations. When the price was, I think, around 6% off all-time highs, set in June, there's just no room for error here. It's a golden child company almost. They needed to completely outperform for people to be happy, for people to rally. And that didn't happen, but they did perform well. As I said, for now, for me, there's just too many unknown elements, so I'm not going to be investing. But, I wish luck to those who have and are, have made like 60, 70, 80% profits in this company this year. I mean, it's really good. But I just think for the long term, there's too many governance issues, as I said in my previous video, too many future headwinds that could really hurt the company, and too much uncertainty around how they're going to change their supply chain, what the cost of that's going to be, and really whether there's going to be any government intervention. Now, obviously, just because the stock's down this morning doesn't mean it's going to stay down all day. It could quite easily rally. But yeah, it'll be an interesting one to watch going forward. And thank you very much for watching this video. Once again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, so please do your own research, form your own opinions before investing, and talk to a professional. Thank you very much. Please check out one of my other videos, like and subscribe.